All right, hello everybody, and thanks for joining me at my presentation. Hope everybody's had a good visit to Cloud Expo here in New York. It's the final day, so let's make the most of it, and we'll get going. Thanks again for joining my presentation. I'm Mark Franzak from Solgenia, North America. I am the sales engineer and account manager for Power, and that's what I'm going to be talking to you about today, monetizing the cloud. Power is our platform as a service that really enables and manages and empowers monetization of services or solutions that you put into the cloud. And Power has different components. Now, as a platform, it sits on top of any Hyper-V. So we're agnostic when it comes to whether it's sitting in a private cloud, like a data center, or utilizing public services as Amazon or Azure. So this is really geared for large enterprise, for telcos, for IaaS providers, data centers, really to allow them to provision their services and their solutions to B2C or B2B. And Power itself, the platform consists of different engines. All of these engines are open through RESTful and SOAP API, so it's a completely integrated system that you can wrap your solutions around. And when we look at what it does, it starts with a store, and that store really is a catalog for those solutions or services, which are then segmented on how they need to be billed. So we're going to measure and meter all of the consumables, whether it's right down to the hardware layer, electricity consumption, memory, bandwidth, all of those things that the solution is doing in real time is then metered. So the provisioning engine of Power really says, well, when we have customers come to a store and provision a solution for use and demand for use, that provisioning engine will go out and really provision all the components of that solution. So whether it's requiring a web server and database servers or Linux machines, again, when you look at the bottom line, irregardless of what your framework is, you might be running something or one component on Amazon, another component within your private data center, and that provisioning engine is going to go out and provision that solution based on the requirements of the cloud user, what they're demanding as far as their resource requirements are. And the real framework, everybody is understanding about orchestration and provisioning engines and cloud management, but monetization is a very, very important feature. How do we meter and monitor all of those solutions out there? How do we take back all of the real-time usage information, and how do we put that into a billing model whereby, rather than just a pay-by-use or a subscription model, we can really measure things? And looking at this now from a large enterprise, being able to bring IT as a profit center and say, hey, now we can use this for chargebacks because we can meter and monitor everything within our solution base across the across the infrastructure, both private again and public sectors, and have that relative information to make those decisions on chargebacks. So this is the components of the metering and billing engine, and I'm going to actually get into a demonstration of the software for you so that you can see it in action, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we're going to start this from, and I always got to put myself in a user mode. Someone is going to come to a store or a catalog. And I just lost the display. There we go. Okay. So the first part of Power that I'm going to show you is the store, the catalog. And again, keep in mind, this is done through a set of APIs. So your applications, your solutions, your storefront is really geared to what you need it to be. And this is where someone will go and really provision a software solution for consumption in real time. So I'm going to go in and I'm actually going to configure one of our solutions, which can be white labeled, This is analysis, so this is BI as a service. But keep in mind, this is for any consumable service or solution that you want to offer to your customers, as we do. Now, as you can see here, this is definable. All of our, within the catalog, which you'll be showing in a minute, you define what your application needs to be provisioned for. It might be a number of CPUs in this case, or if we're talking maybe in terms of video conferencing, it might be how many conference rooms are you looking for, or if it's a fax solution in the cloud, you might be saying, hey, I need to meter the number of pages that are faxed on a monthly basis. So these counters are really something that you define through the open set of APIs that Power platform provides. In this case, I'm going to be provisioning the analysis engine, and we'll go down and basically just proceed with this purchase. And I'm using this in a consumption mode, which is a pay-per-use mode, but we have flexible billing, so it might be something that you do by subscription, or something that's invoiced monthly, quarterly, or annually based on what is needed to be provisioned. So as I proceed, the Power provisioning engine will, in the background, go and provision the resources required in any of the private or public cloud providers that we've segmented and distinguished for this particular application. Go and provision that all in real time, and within a minute or two, this application has been provisioned and will be ready for that user, for that business user, to consume as a service. So I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to show you the Power engine and how this sort of all ties together, and then we'll roll back after and go back into our store and see how our desktop really was provisioned for us. So when we look at the Power backend architecture, this is the platform of Power. It really consists of setting up your store catalog, and then all of the billing, provision, and metering engines, which can be separated across multiple layers. Again, you may have a store engine sitting on Amazon, or if you have a multinational operation, you may have storefronts in different parts of the geographical areas based on requirements, individual requirements. So as an example, when we look at our analysis framework that we sort of just went and configured, and I'll just log into the system here. Now, when you go and, one of the first parts that's really configured is your store. And it's the catalog of the service that you're providing. Again, you would create your solution and wrap it around the Power framework to tell Power how you want to measure your consumable application. And we'll take a look at, for example, analysis here. You parameterize the application with regards to what the application is, what store it's in, what the provisioning provider is going to be. We, again, support any provisioning engine, so it could be sitting on Zen or OpenStack or Amazon or Azure. And basically, you're telling analysis to go out and use a specific provisioning engine, and what is behind this solution in the cloud. So in particular, this solution requires a web server and a database server. So I'm going to segment these hosts and say every time someone goes and provisions a new resource for analysis, I'm going to go and the provisioning engine will create my infrastructure for me automatically, again behind the scenes, and then tie that all together through the billing mechanism. So if we take a look again and go a little bit deeper, you're again going right down and telling the system, and a lot of this is variable driven as well. Some of the variables that you see here, like host CPUs, RAM usage, these end up being variables that related back to the store. Whereas the user was configuring it, they would set how much CPU they need, how many gigs of RAM they need, how much bandwidth they need. And this is applicable, again, to any type of solution or architecture. Going back to my example of fax in the cloud, you would have a counter in here for number of faxes or number of pages that you want to be able to count. So this all ties back into then the big piece of it is setting up your resource counters, and this is where the metering engine will sit and listen to that application and talk between the application and the infrastructure level, and now monitor everything from bandwidth, memory, electrical consumption, or any of the counters, again, that your application needs. And you build a pricing model which will then sort of go back into either a monthly subscription or a pay-per-use type of model that you present to your customer base and your consumers. So you would set up, again, either pay-per-use, or in this case, you know, we have prepaid counters for the solutions that we provisioned within our store, and you can see how this relates back to the store usage. We had someone select the number of disks, CPUs, network that they needed to use. And all of this information is being gathered and then can go back within our billing engine or utilize through our set of APIs a third-party billing engine. So for example, H3G is partnered with Ericsson in Europe. They're using Power to provide business-to-customer services, enterprise content management and storage. And this is then being relayed back to a SAP deployment used in their billing engine. So Power is being used to gather all the metering and statistics of the solutions that are offered to the customers, and then billing goes back through API. So again, a very flexible and open environment for you to control your services and solutions that are offered. And what I've brought up here is, again, the fact that Power really is communicating with that lower level architecture. Everything that's sitting in your VM environment, everything that's sitting in the bare metal of a data center, for example, and now monitoring everything with regards to what are applications consuming, what are users consuming, what are departments using within certain virtualized environments. And this is where it becomes a critical role in tying everything together. Again, you know, I mentioned earlier on that a lot of people will do provisioning and orchestration, but now tying all that together in a very ambiguous environment where it's irrelevant whether you're using Zen, OpenStack, public services like Azure or Amazon, and being able to bring that back to where now you can really monetize your solutions and have that available for you know, recurring revenues, positive recurring revenues. Any you know, any questions? Excellent. Well, listen, I thank everybody for attending the presentation, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.